Look, I want to throw you a lifeline, and that's this breathing that I do, which is, all right, in the Eastern thing it's called Kriya, It's called Kriya Yoga, which is union with God, a practice, an action. It's wonderful for the secular. It's not just wonderful for the secular. It's wonderful for the person who just, his hope and his faith is stumped at the minute. He's tried it all, including listening to Marshall. Gosh, he must have been desperate, poor chap. No. But, there are times when I'm just flat, or I'm up against more than I'm up to, and I'm just neutral, and I'm not even calling out to God. I'm just spiritually feeling blank. It's a great blessing then, I can tell you, to practice the breathing, the triangular breathing, as I call it. I mean, I've simplified it greatly. I mean, there's a lot of rigmarole that you can attach to it, but I've got it down to, as an economist, the bare bones, haven't I? Triangular breathing, I'll just go through it in brief. It's a 3-stage breathing. You breathe in, you hold, and you breathe out. And you count to, I count to 10 on the breathing in, hold for a count of 10, and breathe out for a count of 10. So 30, could be 30 seconds. You'll probably breathe into the count of 4 and hold to 4 and breathe out to 4, and you'll increase it gradually with experience and time and what you find fits. That's it, basically. If you did that alone, you practice it and see what the blessings are. Of course, I don't mean one breath. I mean, you just repeat and repeat. You might do 7, 10, 20 breaths. You might do it for 5 minutes. You might do it for 10 minutes. You might do it for half an hour, whatever. Okay? It's a full breath. You're filling the lungs from the bottom first. You imagine it filling to the top, holding, and then you breathe out. You imagine the top emptying down to the bottom, like filling and emptying a glass. Okay? So it's not straining, not stressing, not trying to hold the breath longer than you find absolutely comfortable, but the evenness of what you breathe in, hold to, and breathe out to. And then you go into the next breath. You don't hold the lungs empty. I don't mean you accelerate like mad into the next breath, but you just go into the next breath. So you breathe in, hold, breathe out, breathe in, hold, breathe out. Only you are extending the breath, and you'll find it extends absolutely naturally. It's not something you have to apply yourself to and make the breath longer. That would be a disaster. You're not going to do that. You're going to find that you could so easily, instead of holding to the count of 5, you're holding to the count of 6 or 7. And then sometimes you drop back to 6 because 7 was too much, perhaps. That's fine. Fine. It's what fits and what's right for you at your stage. And, do it when you need. You might do it in the morning when you're laying in bed, if you tend to wake up early. I do. I wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning. I'm not in gear. I've come from dreams, or something or other, but I'm not in spiritual gear yet. I tend, most often, to practice the Kriya breathing then. And until I get tired of doing it. That might be after very few breaths, or it might be, could be half an hour's worth, even longer, an hour, could be. But then I've been doing it for a long time. I mean, I was doing yoga breathing, as I called it then, which is probably less emotive than to say Kriya, but I mean, I was doing it with Mum at something like the age of 12. And I would then meditate in as far as a kiddie has got a clue as to what meditation's about. I'd sit there, cross-legged. And Mum would be in the kitchen cooking. And as I've said, after some meditation, I'd go into the kitchen and I found Mum a tremendous stress to me. I wasn't happy about this, because I love Mum. But I realised she was a firmament of, I was going to say discontent, not quite that bad, but goodness, I found it a struggle. Anyway, I might point out that concurrently or subsequently with this, I started to do incredibly well at school, in tests. And I've told you that saga elsewhere, so I won't go through that again. But it's the Kriya breathing can be a precursor to something very spiritual starting to happen. If you don't find this is the case, fine, ignore it. It's not your practice, it's not your way. You're much better singing praises to God. Well, jolly good. Go ahead then. If you can do that when you're flat, wow. I'm with you all the way. Bless you. But Kriya is wonderful, and it's wonderful for the secular because they will find their life is changing at a wonderful rate. And it's incredibly effective in the early stages to give you encouragement. There's a lot of help from God, as I see it, early on. And you feel, oh, it does make me better. I'm more even, more calm. Things seem to fit better. You start to notice the synchronicities in your life. You start to be happier, optimistic, full of hope. Practice Kriya when you need to and when you're happy to. And if it's not your cup of tea, fine, don't worry, leave it alone. Find your way. And if you can't find it, come back to Kriya again. You may find it helps. What else should I say about? Oh, well, how do I practice it? I actually hold it for 10 or 12. So I'm holding it for half a minute or up to 40 seconds even. But usually half a minute. So I'm running at 2 breaths a minute. And I'm just laying there in bed. I'm not sitting cross-legged or anything like that. I mean, I'm just relaxed in bed, and if I fall asleep again at 3 or 4 in the morning, well, that's just fine. I'm not worried about that, am I? Okay, but I typically don't. I start recording afterwards, and I'm away like I was this morning, finishing S1490a the last, up to J, the last few recordings. Yes, I drop into and out of being mindful of what in Eastern terms is called the chakras, but they're the sort of locations on the body, the base of the spine, then you come up to the, lower stomach really, I suppose you would say the reproductive organs, but I don't think of it in terms of that. Although I do think of it in terms of life. The first bottom of the spine I think of as the foundation, and our foundation is God's integrity. The whole universe depends on him holding it together. The attraction of atoms and molecules and so on. I mean, without that, there is no life at all. He's the very foundation of life, you see. So we move up from the foundation, which is integrity, constancy, reliable, laws of physics, if you like, whatever. And we come up to creativity. Then we come up to the stomach, which is where the emotions are kept, aren't they? In other words, it's ideally shalom, plentifulness, satisfaction, fullness, plenty of life. We're enjoying life. We're thankful, filled with gratitude. In the stomach. Nice meal, lovely dear. I enjoyed that. Thank you, sweetheart. You know, she cooks you a lovely meal. And you think, oh, she's an angel. Love her. You're full of gratitude, you see. Then you come up to the heart, which is love. You're full on love now because of the gratitude, aren't you? The heart is the seat of feelings, and it's all the thought behind your values and desires and so forth. Then you I suppose one's heart is full of hope too, isn't it? Yes. Anyway, then you come up to the throat, which is the praise of God, isn't it? You worship. You're getting close to transcendence here, aren't you? You're praising God. Your love is now focused on God and all His goodness, all the creation, and your very self and being. And then you come up to the mind, the head. You might focus, as the Eastern people do, that point between the eyebrows. I don't mean you go cross-eyed, but you frown slightly. You're there. Your attention's no need to frown if you're a beautiful maiden. Of course, don't just focus there. I can frown. I can have a few frown lines at 77, and so you're focused there, aren't you? I remember this little boy, a picture of me in Mum's arms in Dad's car. It was a soft-top car, and the top was down. You know, the hood was down. And she was a good-looking woman, and she's holding me up higher than her head. I mean, my head's just that bit higher than hers. And she's looking at me, smiling and loving. And, of course, poor Dad's taking the photograph. But I'm looking towards the camera, and I'm frowning. My eyebrows are like a Northern Hemisphere, Northern Europe, sloping roof, 2 sloping eyebrows. Oh, poor chap's had a bad start, hasn't he? I was probably 3 there, might have been 2. Yeah, what's that got to do with it? Come back to where you were, Marsha. Yes, that's where you're focusing. What the Eastern people think of as the third eye, or the eye of intuition, or what we in the West tend to think of as concentration and focus and, your complete attention. And then you hold, where you're in fellowship with God, aren't you? You've come up to the point of worship at the throat, and you're up to the point of focusing on God at the forehead. So you're in fellowship with God. You're communing with God. And that's the zenith of the breath, isn't it? You're holding it for 7. Or for whatever the number is. It might be 4, it might be 10, whatever it is, And then you breathe out to the same number. And you go back down. Well, this is far too much to remember, of course, in each breath. I mean, you'd run out of air because you can't think of what the next stage is. I mean, it doesn't come overnight doing that. But that is actually what I tend to do at times. Not all the time. Sometimes, in fact, I just keep up the triangular breathing, but I listen to my recordings. And then, of course, suddenly something occurs to me. I'll stop the breathing, the triangular practice, and I stop the recording and record, and I'm away. And that doesn't always happen. Sometimes I just get tired, turn over, and think I could do with a bit more sleep. It's only 3:30 or something. I could get another couple of hours and see how it goes. But I have found, and I did, for instance, this morning, that I did a great deal of Kriya breathing because I'm being tried at the minute with a bit of persecution, if you like. Nothing too serious, but could make me homeless. Oh, that sounds serious. Well, it is when you're when you no longer own your house and you've owned a house all your life, and rented accommodation and so on. But anyway, enough of me. So I was helped by the persecution to be focused on God, and I was helped by doing the Kriya, and I rolled off. Well, perhaps you see the last recording, S1490a series, as a disaster. But I felt it was, I'm very pleased with myself. Well, that shouldn't be myself, but you know what I mean. I'm so glad I did it. But you can expect spiritual things from practicing Kriya. And, I expect Christian faith will throw up its hands in horror. I'm not quite sure why, because, it's just because it's some other religion, isn't it? And everything else is wrong except Christianity and Christianity's view, even though it's incredibly split up into warring factions. They don't war openly, just sort of spiritually. Yes. The practice of Kriya seems to be a blessing, and you may find it a terrific blessing. So I do commend it to you, especially when you don't feel you're making progress in other ways. It's a great one to fall back on. And of course, it's for anyone. You can be as secular as they come. See the effect of Kriya breathing on your life. Wow, you'd be surprised. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.